People who have worked at Goodwill or other thrift stores, etc., and processed donations. What's the craziest thing you found? I spent 3 years working at Golden Years Thrift, the little charity shop attached to Sunset Manor Nursing Home. Most days involved sorting through donations that families dropped off after cleaning out their parents' houses. Boxes of mismatched dishes, outdated electronics, and enough floral print dresses to outfit a small army of church ladies. Mrs. Henderson ran the shop and had this system where everything got sorted into categories before hitting the sales floor. I usually got stuck with miscellaneous household items, which was basically code for random junk nobody else wanted to deal with. Box 247 arrived on a Tuesday morning in March. The woman who dropped it off was maybe 50, wearing yoga pants and the kind of harried expression that comes from spending your weekend cleaning out a lifetime of accumulated belongings. My father passed last month, she told Mrs. Henderson. We're selling the house. Most of this is just papers and old books, but maybe someone can use it. The box sat in the back room for 2 days before I got around to it. Heavy thing, taped shut with enough packing tape to survive a hurricane. When I finally cut it open, I found exactly what she described. Manila folders full of tax documents from the 1980s, a few hardcover books with cracked spines, and a shoebox wrapped in a rubber band. The shoebox was where things got interesting. Letters, dozens of them, tied with ribbons that had probably been white once, but had yellowed to the color of old cream. The return addresses were all over the place. Camp Carson, Colorado, APO addresses I didn't recognize, and some from what looked like small towns in Kansas and Nebraska. I probably should have just tossed them in the recycling bin. Personal correspondence wasn't exactly hot merchandise for our usual customers, but something about the careful way they'd been preserved made me curious. The first bundle was from the 1940s, written in careful cursive on army letterhead. A soldier named Robert writing to his wife Margaret back home, describing mess hall food and training exercises and how much he missed her meatloaf. Standard World War II correspondence. Sweet, but not particularly unusual. The second bundle was older, much older. The paper was thicker, more formal, and the handwriting was different, more elaborate, with those flourishes you see in old documents. The return address said, Thomas Mitchell, Denver, Colorado, and was dated December 15th, 1914. My dearest Eleanor, it began. I should have stopped reading right there. These weren't my letters, weren't my family's history, but something about the formal tone and careful penmanship drew me in. Thomas was writing to propose marriage. Not just propose, he was laying out his entire life plan in 12 pages of the most romantic prose I'd ever encountered. He described falling in love with Eleanor during a church ice skating social the previous winter, how her laughter echoed across the frozen pond, how she looked like an angel gliding across the ice in her blue wool coat. But what really got me was how practical he was about the whole thing. This wasn't just flowery romantic nonsense. Thomas had done his homework. He'd included a newspaper clipping advertising houses for sale in Denver. Beautiful Victorian homes with wraparound porches and bay windows, priced between $1,200 and $800. He'd circled one in particular, a 3-bedroom house on Maple Street for $1,500. I've spoken with the banker about securing a loan, he wrote. My position at the railroad provides steady income of $45 monthly, which will more than cover our household expenses and allow us to start the family we've discussed. I've calculated that we could own the house outright within 8 years if we're careful with our spending. He'd done the math, literally shown his work in the margins, calculating mortgage payments and household budgets like he was presenting a business proposal. But somehow it was incredibly romantic, this careful planning for their future together. The letter went on for pages, describing their potential life in detail, how they'd plant a garden behind the house, how they'd host Sunday dinners for both their families, how he'd build a workshop in the basement where he could make furniture for their home. At the bottom, he'd written, Eleanor, I promise to love you whether we live in a mansion or a cottage, but I want to give you the best life I can provide. Please say yes, and we can start building our future on Christmas morning. I sat there in that cluttered back room, holding a 109-year-old marriage proposal, wondering what Eleanor had said. Did she accept? Did they buy that house on Maple Street? Did Thomas come home from whatever war was waiting for him? The other letters might have held answers, but Mrs. Henderson walked in and saw me reading instead of working. Personal correspondence goes in the recycling bin, she said firmly. We can't sell people's private letters. I watched her drop the entire shoebox into the blue bin, Thomas's carefully planned future disappearing under a pile of junk mail circulars. But I still think about them sometimes. Thomas and Eleanor, ice skating on that winter pond in 1914, having no idea that their love story would survive in a charity shop a century later, touching the heart of some random college kid sorting through donations. I hope she said yes.